Hi everyone, welcome to another Port Jackson Securities webinar. I am your webinar host, Caitlin Chung, and today we are joined by the Managing Director of Legacy Minerals, Christopher Byrne. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. Today Chris will give us a presentation, and then we will take questions from the floor. So feel free to pop in your questions whilst he's presenting, and then we can go through them. So I'll hand it off to you, Chris.
Yeah, and then thanks again for hosting us today, Caitlin. And thanks for those taking the time out of their day to attend. So I'll run through Legacy Minerals. We're a gold copper exploration company based in the Lachlan Fold Belt of New South Wales. So a great jurisdiction, working within Australia here, and it's one of the most prolific exploration and mining districts. Skip through the disclaimer. This presentation is available on our website for reference. So why Legacy Minerals? There's a lot of exploration companies out there in the market, so there's a plethora of offerings to choose from, but we certainly feel there are some significant points of differentiation with the company. First and foremost is our immediate discovery exposure. We've got a great package of tenements, in particular our Bauloora, which is one of New South Wales' largest epithermal systems. Our Cobar tenements right in the heart of a prolific mining and exploration district, and Rockley in an emerging porphyry district. And that porphyry district of the Lachlan Fold Belt is continuing to see some success. Even recently, Magmatic released some fantastic porphyry intercepts. So we're well leveraged to that discovery exposure and our exploration success. We've got 100% ownership of the projects. And those discovery opportunities provide some significant growth for the company, particularly when you look at our Legacy's market cap hovering around the $12 million mark. We've got strong news flow over the coming months, so that's regional campaigns kicking off, as well as some other high impact drilling that we're planning on doing towards the end of the year. And we're well funded for that, being a small operation. Most of our money gets spent in the ground, looking for those shareholder returns through that discovery. And we're also open to looking at innovative ways and new ways to add value for our shareholders. And I'll talk about this Earth AI Artificial Intelligence Alliance that we've got towards the end of the webinar as a way that we're exploring an exploration model that allows discoveries to be made in conjunction with a real cutting edge exploration technology company. We've got a prime position in that Lachlan Fold Belt, as I mentioned, and importantly, the portfolio of targets that we've assembled, they're high grade and shallow. So that's important to note as an investor, because it means a short discovery journey. So we're not looking for necessarily deep undercover exploration approaches. We've got low cost opportunities to make immediate discoveries, as well as to find additional ones throughout the portfolio. So why New South Wales? I talked about it being a great jurisdiction, and certainly we feel that investment within Australia, it's a safe investment. There's no sovereign risk here. There's great land access across New South Wales. It's one of Australia's premier mining and exploration district, home to Australia's largest gold mine at the Katy Ridgeway deposit, operated by Newcrest. Close to 50 million ounces gold, and a significant copper endowment as well. There's infrastructure, skilled workforce. It provides year-round exploration access. So unlike other jurisdictions within Australia that have seasonal impediments to exploration, we've got tarred access to all our tenements. They're close by townships, so easy to get on, easy to mobilise, and that makes it a very cost-effective and cheap exploration. Importantly, we know it's a district that's home to some significant deposits, and it's got a significant metal endowment. And so that's, in terms of a porphyry, copper gold district, it sits there as Australia's best. Over 106 million ounces of gold and 20 million tons of copper throughout the district there. That's across some operating mines, but also across some new discoveries that are slowly transitioning towards deposits as resources come out. So we know it's a district that discoveries transition to mines. In terms of the corporate snapshot, we listed in September last year, which was an interesting IPO during COVID. So literally everything done from home, and that sort of set the tone for the way the company's operated. We're very lean on our overheads. There's no corporate office in any major city. We run field offices. We're very lean in terms of our exploration team and our remuneration. So we feel that does separate us from a lot of the other explorers out there. Very tight shareholding, top 20 have 60% of the company, and the board and management have a significant stake in the company too. In terms of who the board and management are, very well-rounded team. We've got a mix of some very sort of senior mining industry leaders. Dr. David Carlin, our chairman, recently stepped off the chair for Rex, and they've seen some significant success recently. Doug Menzies and Matt Warren, non-executive directors, both significant experts in their respective fields. And then the management team, myself and Tom, we're the founders of the team, and we're work full-time for Legacy. There's no other board holdings that we have. We're dedicating our time solely to seeing the success of this company, and we're also significant shareholders in the company as well. So I'll talk about Bauloora as the first project. It's certainly what is showcasing it to be a very, very exciting project, and we're constantly out on the ground here and really unpacking what is the largest underexplored low sulfidation epithermal system in New South Wales. So that's a fairly significant statement. And the reason why is that these systems, when they're found in New South Wales, is that they're known to host some significant deposits. So the key features of an epithermal low sulfidation system, and why are we chasing it, and why are we so excited around the prospects at Bauloora here, is that globally they're known to host some of the world's biggest gold mines. So like here over in PNG, 66 million ounces. You've got a raft of great low sulfidation epithermal systems throughout the Pacific, and then as well as in the Americas too. Sierra Negro, one of the world's the biggest gold producers, 334,000 ounces per annum. So we know that they have that world-class potential. They're typically shallowly in place, so you're talking about mineralization that's at surface or close to surface, and the resources are typically high grade and have long mine life. So certainly something that it's a great target. In terms of the backyard of New South Wales, there are some good examples of world-class low sulfidation systems. We've got Evolution's Cow Mine, which is about 80 kilometres north of where we are at Bauloora, 15 million ounces. We've got Bowden's 275 million ounces silver equivalent. That's one of the world's largest undeveloped silver deposits. Mineral Hill and Bauloora. So Bauloora is, we're putting it up there as a big system, and that's by this footprint, this gold zone that we're continually expanding. And I put up the gold zone of the Cow discovery history, sits around 7.5 kilometres by 2 kilometres at greater than 0.1 grams per tonne. And at the moment at Bauloora, we're looking at a 5.5K by 3.5K system that's greater than 0.5 grams per tonne gold in rock chips. So quite a significant surface expression. And that's really important when you look at that surface expression and the potential of the system, is that when you're looking at that widespread alteration mineralization footprint, is that when you compare that footprint with analogous low sulfidation systems, both within New South Wales and globally, those other systems almost universally host major deposits. So we're certainly seeing, I guess, all the right hallmarks for a significant system here. Just sort of pointing out some of the key features here is the district scale potential. So at the moment, we're looking at a hydrothermal alteration zone around 42 square kilometres. So that's defined by, quite a significant area, all under Legacy Minerals ownership. And within that, we're looking at a gold zone around 11 square kilometres, and that's showing some very typical low sulfidation veining textures at surface, striking for up to kilometres. So that's really encouraging to see the high grade, rock chips in gold at surface, the right textures. It's untested. So the previous historically, the exploration done on it hasn't really identified, the right zones, and that, there's just been a real lack of systematic work, and that's very much what we're currently doing, is that systematic exploration across the team. There's only been one drill hole for every 72 hectares across that, that zone of alteration, with an average depth of 88 meters, so very untested at depth. We've got the high grades, bonanza silver, high grade gold and base metals. And importantly, in New South Wales and in Australia, we're high level in the system. And that system preservation is key. When you talk about shallow in place gold systems in very, very old geological districts, there's a real risk that your system will have weathered or been eroded, and so that you lose a lot of that value. And what we're sort of seeing here indicates to us that we are at the top levels of the system, which may present significant opportunities for extensions and growth at depth. Mount Felsted, we drilled there at the start of the year, and it really represents what we're saying is the tip of the iceberg. Some high grades were intercepted in the maiden drill campaign, 9 meters at 10% lead zinc, 94 silver and 2 grams gold. Another hole went 3 meters at 7 lead plus zinc, 150 grams silver and 1.6 grams gold. Great shallow intercepts. They're showing a bit of width there. Excellent metallurgical recoveries. We did some test work on that. So great silver recoveries, great gold, and really quite exceptional copper, lead and zinc recovery. So very, very encouraging to get that test work that sort of demonstrates, I guess, that future feasibility or viability down the track. What we're seeing there, it's a shallow ore body, bonanza grades. So there's some historical face sampling, went up to 3,700 grams silver, 6 grams gold, and over 50% lead plus zinc. So it's a very, very high grade system. Mineralized from surface. There's an example of a rock chip there, taken on surface. It's open to the north-south down dip, and it hasn't been drilled below 150 meters. So the zonation of epithermal systems, typically they get better at depth, and it presents a fantastic target. And when we say the tip of the iceberg here, is that what we're seeing here has the real potential and what we believe to represent the top of a larger system. To put it in context, the strike that we're looking at here covers less than 2% of that mineralized gold zone we're talking about. So if you talk about, getting drilling, and there is some historic drilling that demonstrates that mineralization across the gold zone, you're starting to talk about a significantly mineralized system across a very, very large area. What that sort of looks like in a cartoon schematic is quite important, again, to sort of demonstrate that the levels of the system, and you can see the zonation between the top of your systems where we're seeing this sinter-related lithology, often barren, and certainly we are seeing some barren areas there. And then what that demonstrates is that we've got this preserved area. As soon as you step off the sort of sinter prospects, we're into these high-grade, bonanza systems where we've got rock chips going up to 460 grams silver, 32 grams gold. So quite high grades, and they're in these vein systems that strike for up to 3 kilometers long. And we're seeing about 5 parallel repetitions of these vein systems. It's certainly a very large system in that we're seeing an intermediate sulfidation type element in a carbonate base metal component, and that's more of your Mount Felsted where you've got lots more base metals. But certainly when we step out from that, move to the broader reaches of the system, we're seeing far more of your typical low sulfidation textures. So it's a big project, a big district, and the importance there is for us to approach it in a cost-effective and systemic way. It's tempting it is to rush in and start punching drill holes in. What we're doing is defining this regional vein field. From there, we are starting to look at the vein trends that sit within that, and so we're looking at vectoring in on those vein trends, testing them, and then from there we're looking at the mineralized shoots and the targeting the potential high grade prospects across those mineralized shoots. So onto Cobra. So Cobra is a fantastic prospect. We picked that up. It was one of the first tenements that Legacy picked up, and it sits right in the heart of the Lachlan, the Cobar Basin. So it's a prolific mining district, and what we're seeing there, is some, again, really good ingredients for potential Cobar type mineralisation. So we're less than 10 k's from the recently acquired Glencore mine, which is one of Australia's highest grade copper mines. Well, it is Australia's highest grade copper mine, purchased for 1.1 billion off Glencore. So we're downstrike of that, of this big regional fault called the Merck Fault. And Cobar really presents, and underpins the value growth opportunity of the company. When you look at the peers in the Cobar district, Aurelia, Peel Mining, Manuka, Sandfire, you're talking about some big miners and big explorers. The tenement, relatively untested. We've been doing a lot of the systematic groundwork, identifying late time conductors. We've got undrilled IP and magnetic targets. And currently we're wrapping up some soil geochem programs as well, and looking forward to putting them out to the market as well. And they'll be building on, the work that's been done historically, which is, identify this regionally significant gold in lag anomaly, up to 1.5 grams per ton gold. And, with all Cobar, or most major Cobar discoveries are associated with some type of lag anomaly. So we've got active work programs there, and we're looking at testing some of the targets that'll come out of the geochem and combining those with our AEM work as well. In terms of the right ingredients, this is a cross section that sort of just demonstrates how close we are to the main strike of mines and the prospectivity. That A to B cross section looking from west to east, we're seeing in our tenement the structural complexity. So that's very important for your Cobar type mineralisation. These are the pathways for fluid mineralisation to reach the surface. Geochemically anomalous, so we're seeing these geochemical signatures at surface that indicate the presence of mineralisation. We're seeing it's very geophysically anomalous, which is what we're sort of expect. As soon as you sort of move off the main strike, you get a slightly undercover, so you get a bit of a diffuse geochemical signature. But what we're seeing in the geophysics, which hasn't been done before Legacy held this tenement, is numerous late time conductors. These are potential bedrock conductor anomalies, and what we're trying to do is line them up with regional faults and really other fertile ingredients for these Cobar type deposits. What we also love about the Cobar district, no sovereign risk, there's great land access, it's close to infrastructure, and it's surrounded by, as I said, some great mining and exploration companies who see continued success. And it's probably one of the best regions in New South Wales where discoveries transition to mines. So to Rocklea. Rocklea is our copper gold porphyry target, and it sits in Australia's premier porphyry district. So this is the Lachlan Fold Belt. We're about to set the context regionally. We're about 55 k's from Katy Ridgeway, which I mentioned before is Australia's largest gold mine, 50 million ounces. We've also to our south got the Racecourse porphyry. So that's 71 million tonnes at almost 0.5% copper. What we see is a great opportunity in this tenement, and why we're here is that there are lots of overlooked porphyry opportunities in the Lachlan Fold Belt, we believe. And Alkane is a classic example of that. They held their Bauloora tenement for 28 years before that discovery was made, and that discovery is now, they've released their maiden resource, which is close to 10 million ounces gold equivalent. Alkane also held our ground for several years and never conducted any systematic porphyry exploration across it. So we like it. It's also been recognised by an independent third-party company to be the most prospective area for porphyry copper mineralisation in the Rocklea Goulgong volcanics. So that's a strong endorsement by Kennex and the Geological Survey in terms of their porphyry prospectivity ranking. We know the area is home to other porphyries, as evidenced by the Bushranger porphyry. And importantly for Legacy, we're looking at that, and we're sort of learning off their discovery journey, is that they've got a shallow preserved porphyry that's close to surface. So when you're talking about porphyry intercepts from 110 meters, and you're drilling 920 meters at 0.3% copper, that's significant. It means that, if you can get it's shallow, cost effective, and it's not exactly typical with your, your normal deep pocket, deep drilling porphyry exploration approach. The recent radiometrics and magnetics that we've done have really highlighted, some key regions of interest. The primary one being this ROI1, sits right in the middle of the tenement, discrete potassic anomaly, circular feature of magnetic destruction, in an area of significant broad copper mineralization and undrilled. So it certainly makes for a very exciting prospect. And that ROI1, you can see there in the center of this image, showcases, just where it sits in that widespread copper mineralization. We've got an area that's been overlooked, untested. There's only been 22 shallow rab holes, no deeper than 15 meters, right at the south of this tenement. So not testing any of the key areas of interest that we've defined with modern exploration. And we know it's got all the right ingredients. We're seeing that it's in the right host rocks, phase 4 division, so it's coeval with the KU Ridgeway group. We've got some high-grade historic copper mines, and we're seeing this widespread anomalism. So about an 8 square kilometre zone of rock chips grading than greater than 0.5% copper. So I mentioned before, that the company, we've got 6 projects, and one of the more interesting things we did at the start of the year was this artificial intelligence framework or an alliance that we set up with Earth AI. So it really puts us at the forefront in this sort of field, in particular this type of exploration model. So 2 of our tenements are Fontenoy and Mulholland, which are more of our base metal, critical metal focused tenements. So we've got, copper, gold, nickel, PGE, as well as tin and cobalt across the 2. We've essentially farmed them out to Earth AI under this alliance framework. So it's a very, people often ask, what is artificial intelligence and what is it doing in the exploration space? And Earth AI have really come in, and there is a lot of funding that's come in recently to, ensure that the decarbonisation of our economy, is sort of met, and that needs to be through increasing the supply of minerals. And there's been a huge shortfall. They seem to be as disruptors of the traditional exploration model, with the goal of identifying and securing, those minerals for the future. So there's a particular commodity focus I mentioned around your critical and your battery metals. And what they're using is their artificial intelligence to target, test, and verify those discoveries through drilling. So they're based in New South Wales, officed out of San Francisco, and they really have this a good approach that can cover broad scale tenements like Mulholland and Fontenoy, which are quite large, narrow down the most, the high conviction targets, and then go out and drill them. So they've got their own drill rigs as well, and there's a degree of vertical integration as well that that separates them from the rest of the company. What it means for our shareholders in terms of the alliance terms, it's up to 4.5 spent over 2 years, and it is an open agreement. And unlike a classic joint venture, it's purely success based. So they go out, identify the targets, they drill it, and if they make a significant or an economic intercept, then they get a royalty over that discovery. In the meantime, Legacy retains 100% ownership. So there's no earn-in structure like a traditional joint venture. In terms of just a quick snapshot on those projects, Fontenoy is this large volcanic hosted massive sulfide system, strikes for about 8 kilometres. And we're seeing some very broad copper mineralisation across it, tip to toe. Mulholland is out near Burke in this growing tin and nickel district. It straddles Sky Metals, Dorodilla, and 3KL prospects. And again, a significant strike length, 28 kilometres, lots of targets, lots of known mineralisation, so multiple opportunities for discovery. And what it does is it allows us, the alliance agreement allows Earth AI to work on these tenements in parallel to the work we're doing on Bauloora, Cobar, and Rockley. So that just essentially means that we're getting multiple fires and multiple pokers across multiple fires, so lots of shots at our discovery. In terms of the planned exploration program, it's going to be busy back end to the year. We've sort of been rolling through drill campaigns, soil geochemistry, geophysics, quite a busy body of work generating the targets. And we're still continuing on with our regional exploration at Bauloora and looking forward to rolling into some drill campaigns later towards the end of this year, and then really following those through next year. So quite a large amount of drilling planned across the Bauloora tenement with Fontenoy and Mulholland Earth.AI going through their data reviews, geological mapping, and then planning to drill those targets as well. So I've got some upcoming results we're expecting to put out as well, and then looking for those real high impact share price catalysts when we kick off the drill campaigns. In terms of an investment summary before we go into sort of Q&A, I talked about legacy minerals, that we've got these district scale discovery opportunities. So to hold such a large, in particular Bauloora, large epithermal system, it certainly puts us in an enviable position relative to some of our peers. We're value leveraged to that success. I talked about a competitive market cap, with shallow exploration targets, high grade systems that we're looking at. We've got the depth of projects, in a tier 1 district, and we're looking at, ways to fund exploration on those outside, our own use of funds, and that involves, the Earth.AI artificial intelligence framework. And ultimately, we're focused on delivering shareholder value, and we realise that value comes through discovery, and that's where the bulk of our funds, go into the ground, seeing those opportunities, and hopefully in the near term, seeing those opportunities realised into discoveries. So with that, Caitlin, that probably wraps up the formal side of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a really good introduction to legacy minerals. I know a lot of our clients watching are pretty new to it, so that was a really good snapshot of all the amazing work you guys are doing. For anyone that came in late, feel free to pop in questions as we will get started into the Q&A now. And a question from me, you guys are about 3 weeks out from your first year anniversary since listing on the ASX. So what have you learnt in the past year, and what would you do differently in the next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we've certainly we've learnt a lot, and probably what we've learnt is that having an open mind is key to the exploration game. I'm an engineer by background, so not a geologist, and certainly the way that we have built our portfolio with projects, really allows us to competitively challenge each of those projects. So certainly the projects that we started off with at the start of the IPO process and listing, and we drilled those, and Harden is the example of that. We drilled that quite aggressively, and that took up the bulk of our attention while we slowly worked on some of the other ones. But as we sort of particularly developed Bauloora, we've started to sort of realise just how good of an opportunity that system is. So I guess that having a broad spectrum of projects and sort of being, I guess, agnostic to success, but being open to to opportunities where they lie best, that's sort of been a bit of an eye opener. And it's certainly been, it was difficult, the IPO with COVID, coming out of that, and that sort of those challenges and operating within that restricted environment. So it certainly was a bit of an interesting IPO period, but we've certainly found our feet pretty well since then.
Well, it's only been a year and you guys are already doing really great. So whatever you're doing, keep it up. I see that you guys do a lot of community work in the Lachlan Fold Belt. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we realised that key to legacy operating and our social license to operate, we've got about under pending license applications and current license applications, around 150,000 hectares of land. So it's a significant tenure, and that means operating in multiple different communities. And key to the the exploration approach in New South Wales is that it is there's a lot of farmers. So you have to work with the community, you have to work with the farmers, and as part of being involved in that community. And our offices are set up regionally. As I said, we're not a corporately based exploration companies. We're involved. We support, in particular, the local rugby clubs, which our guys sometimes play in as well. So from that perspective, we try and integrate ourselves as best as possible. All our guys live rurally as well, so there's again a focus on supporting those communities. And often, the benefit we see in that too is a lot of the towns that have an already established mine might have a lot of income or jobs that come from that, but exploration, you're actually touching a lot more communities than than a single mining project. So we work across lots of different townships throughout central New South Wales, and yeah, we're very proud to sort of support those communities.
And speaking of that, how often do you and the team go to the field office?
Yeah, so I would be there once a week, but the guys would they live rurally, so they're out in the field virtually every week. And so we rely on we've got internal resources to do a lot of our base like geochemical work, field work, so that sort of gets conducted virtually every single week, and then we bring on drill contractors and other geophysical consultants to do some of the bulk some of that those programs of work. But yeah, it's a very active work program.
It must have been really difficult during COVID, especially since you guys listed it in that time. We have a question. Where would you like to see the company in 2 years' time?
Yeah, in 2 years' time, really what we would be liking to see is the Bauloora project developed. So what that development means or looks like is that we've got a few thousand meters of drilling currently planned. That's with our existing IPO use of funds. If the project delivers what we're expecting it to in terms of the intercepts or continuing to deliver, we're looking at resource definition and growing those. What the challenge with Bauloora will be is when you're talking about a district scale system is identifying the best targets there. But there's certainly next 2 years, if everything's going right and the system is showcasing its potential, we're looking at possibly more than one resource being defined across these high grade shoots. And that's quite typical of an epithermal, low sulfidation epithermal discovery journey. So there's a lot of very, very good case studies on how those discovery journeys are made in the market, and that's very much what we're looking for. Systematic work, defining some good targets, drilling them, making the discoveries, and transitioning them to resources.
And talking about the Artificial Intelligence Alliance, has the work started with them yet?
Yeah, so they've been doing their desktop-based work. So that's they involve crunching through the data set. So what we have for Fontenoy and Mulholland is, they're quite large tenements. There's lots of geochemical work and lots of previous exploration that I've identified, numerous zones of areas of interest and prospective areas that haven't been drill tested. They're working through that. That'll be followed up by ground truthing. So go out on the ground, identify the best looking targets. What we've really done is, facilitate, a lot of the land access. So we've got land access across all the tenements there. And then that drill campaign, we're looking to, we were down with Earth AI last week. They actually have an office, field office, where they've got their drill rigs down at Young. So it's only 15 kilometres from one of the tenements there. So a logistical win from that perspective is that they're planning, and so are we, to work with them for a drill campaign before the end of this year on Fontenoy at least.
And are you guys working exclusively, or do they work with other companies like yours?
Yeah, so we were the first to sign up with Earth AI under their alliance framework. And so it was a bit of an interesting model, is that there are other artificial intelligence exploration companies out there, and Sensor is an example, but they would, the way that they operate is, or their business model is, that they identify the targets, and an exploration company would pay them for the service. So it's more of a service-based, and then the company would then fund, their drilling and drill those targets. So we were the first to have this type of, royalty drill for success-based model. But certainly Earth AI, they're a big, company from an ambition perspective, and backed by some of, backed by Australia's largest venture capital funds, Airtree, Blackbird. Got some good US backing from Silicon Valley, and their idea is to really grow, their portfolio and get lots more targets and lots more projects like the ones that Legacy offer to build quite a significant global presence.
Well, with that, I think that's all the questions for today. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining me. If you guys do have questions that you haven't sent through now, feel free to email me or Chris, and I can pass them on to Chris. But thank you so much for a great presentation and for joining us. It was really, really great to hear about legacy minerals, and I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future.
Thanks very much for having us on, Caitlin.
Thank you.